then I think this is a good thing to listen to before you do so, because I think it's something that hasn't been addressed, especially between patients and who they've had or obtained their weight loss injection from. So I thought I'd do a live today. By all means, I will answer questions towards the end. And like always, if you have any comments after this has been published, and then I will always go through them and try and give the best insight that I can. But weight loss injections have grown in popularity over definitely the last couple of years, and they originally started off as a diabetic medication. That's where it come from. That's where the licensing come. But after doing some trials, they found out that a lot of patients were losing a lot of weight. So that's where it went into this weight loss injection era. And I think I'm quite conflicted in terms of, are they a good medication or not? Because I think for some patients who, whether they have genetic abnormalities towards weight gain, or whether there's just no chance that they're ever going to lose that weight, then having high excessive amounts of weight is not going to be beneficial for their health. So by using these medications, then you are going to improve outcomes all around. However, given the ease in which we can inject, and now it's come to the point of where it only needs 4 injections a month, and you can lose a substantial amount of weight. And I think that becomes the biggest issue, is that you don't have to put in all the effort on the face of it, like a lot of people have done for many years, which is a strict diet, or at least having a tighter control on it, and then physical activity, all these things. So from the face value point of things, it's easier to do so and you get the same benefits. That's not the case, but on the face of it, that's how it looks. And that's why these medications have grown the companies who provide them, supply them, produce them, to, I think one of them is within the top 5 companies globally in terms of net worth, which just gives you an idea of where the market's going. But I think I've always said this, I've never been a big supporter of Big Pharma, in the sense that I agree with some of the medications. Without pharma, the health of the current population wouldn't be where it is. But then I think that it is a business at the end of the day, and they have to capitalize in certain areas. But when it comes to weight loss, this is the ironic thing. They've given everyone the tool to actually eradicate obesity. When you actually look at it, if you use it alongside the accordance or the licensing agreements that was actually put out there, then you actually eradicate a lot of cases of obesity, because what it's actually licensed for, or who it's licensed for, are people over 30 BMI, which in the UK over the last couple of years, 26% of adults, this is all the top of my head by the way, are classed as obese, which is a BMI of greater than 30. And then overweight is greater than 25. But when it comes to the weight loss injections, you can only have it when you've got a BMI greater than 27 and you've got some weight-related comorbidities. In English, you've either got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you've got sleep apnea, or you've got cardiovascular disease, something that puts your health at risk, where alongside weight and the benefits that you would receive if you were to use a weight loss injection outweighs the risks of going on treatments. That's a big thing and a big theme in medicine. But I actually can't even think where I was going along the lines of then. But in terms of the licensing is set there, but you also have to do this in conjunction with an active lifestyle and a conscious attempt to reduce calorie intake, etc. And that's what it actually puts in the dosages and the agreement. But the reality is that people, if you start injecting yourself, because of the way it works, which I don't think a lot of people actually understand how it works, it's got many factors in which it can influence. So it reduces the amount of stomach emptying, which is how it was so beneficial in diabetic patients. It keeps food in the stomach for longer, whilst increasing the amount of hormones that your body secretes. Giving it that latency period then allows your body to be better prepared. So that's one of the things. By keeping more food in your stomach, you have this feeling of satiety for longer. But the biggest way it works is there's a few neurons within the brain, and it works on them so powerfully that in animal studies, mainly in rats actually, they starved rats, I think it was for 6 to 7 days. I actually can't think of the exact number, but I've read the study anyway. And when they presented food to these rats, despite the fact they've been starved, they couldn't eat, and it comes to the point where they had to euthanize the animal. And that's how powerful these medications are. Mounjaro is the newest one at the moment. It's a combination of 2 different types of hormones, and over a 72-week period, you are projected to lose about 22.5% of your body weight. This has come up since Ozempic, which was semaglutide. That was around 15%. And then where it first started, well, actually, it first started with exenatide, which was quite poor for weight loss, good for diabetes. But then Saxenda, which was liraglutide, had an efficiency of about 8%. And it just keeps going up and up and up. And these medications are that powerful because they work within the central nervous system that you don't have to do anything in terms of change your diet. So you could still be a big drinker, you could still have takeaways, you don't have to modify anything. And this is from, well, first-hand experience with patients where these people are not changing anything. And this is one of the things that is overlooked when prescribing these medications, is the potential for abuse. And we are creating a society where we are using weight and how you look as the metric of health. And I have advocated against this for such a long time. BMI actually has come up in the media probably over the last 6 to 12 months, in the fact that BMI doesn't give a full representation of someone's health, and it doesn't. I mean, BMI is actually based upon mainly white middle-aged men. So if you actually look into BMI for health reasons, then you will find that basically every other ethnic minority has to have a lower threshold. And the reason that BMI was put out there, it is a good estimate for a population at a glance, but it doesn't really give you too much data. So it doesn't give you lean mass, it doesn't give you fat mass, it doesn't give you the functionality or any other aspect of their weight-related health. So again, I think it's a good thing. If someone's got a really high BMI, I think it would give you, in very rare circumstances, it would say that they might be this lean bodybuilder who's got an excessive amount of muscle. I think that's very unlikely. But if someone's got a BMI of 35, 40, then there's a good chance that they've got a large proportion of that being fat mass. And in that case, we can then risk stratify them and try and improve their health going forward. But health is, in the fitness industry, also within public opinion, it's always determined by how you look in terms of your weight. And this medication further solidifies that metric and that movement, because that's all people really care about. I've got family members and friends who are also using this medication. And the sad thing is that health is a metric that should be made up of physical activity, so VO2 max. It should be a component of your diet, inflammation, biomarkers, all these things that would not be it wouldn't be exposed, or how would you put it? It wouldn't come out with just weight and appearance alone. So that's the one thing I would like to say, is don't use weight as a metric, and don't become lazy when using these medications. So this is the issue that I find, is that a lot of people who are prescribed on them, one, the consultations are very poor because they come to me, the letters come across to me, and I have to review them in retrospect, make sure everything that they are taking doesn't interfere with that medication, but also make sure that the right patients are on it in the first place, because a lot of these prescribing companies do allow you to just fill in a form without any point of contact, which again, trivial. I don't believe that should be the case, but it is. And I feel as though it's just my last 2 weeks of clinics have involved patients no older than 35, and each week I'm probably seeing 20 to 30 patients who are using the GLP-1 medication, the weight loss medication, something that you would never have seen years ago. But this is where I see the vicious cycle, is that they've had a recent price increase because of, I think there was a few politics within American cultures, the fact that Americans were paying a lot more, I think it was $1,000, as opposed to the UK where we were paying in the realm of £150 to £200 a month. So it did go up. Now, people did find that extra money and cash to supply that lifestyle because they were fearful of losing the ease that has provided them. And in the back of their mind, they are really healthy for only eating one meal a day and losing such a large amount of weight. And this is something that I always find very difficult, because someone might have lost 4 stone and are really happy with it, and they're saying, oh, I'm doing really well, health has improved. It has, because they were in a bad situation in the first place. But then trying to say to them, well, now we need to improve your functional activity, improve your diet and all these other aspects, because this is where true health lies. It's hard to approach that when they've only been brought up through generations where weight is the only metric for health. But the point is that people are willing to pay whatever it takes financially to use these medications. And because they're not adapting their lifestyle in the first instance, which the companies do ironically give you the advice and guidance that you need, I think they're very clever in the sense that I think they know 90%, probably 95% of them are not going to follow that. So they know they are within this lucrative circle. So for example, in the UK, £330 a month would get you, I think it's 12.5 on that strength of Mounjaro. And then they would, if they price increase that again, because people aren't adapting a lifestyle, they're still just going to balloon weight on as soon as that stops. And then they're just going to keep going through this financial and health cycle. And it's going to be psychologically it's going to be detrimental to a lot of people's mentality. I think it's going to put a lot of strain within health systems. We're already seeing it again on the NHS, where we've put out criteria to start patients, and then now we've seen the fact that we have to reverse a few of them and revoke their treatments because it was incorrectly started as per all these guidance. Again, I think a lot of these patients who will get their treatment revoked would have benefited for longer therapy on that, but then you have to draw the line somewhere, I suppose. But that's the issue, is there's going to be a vicious financial cycle going forward. And another thing that I would like to say is on why I see this vicious cycle going forward is another way in which the body regulates weight. So people might have heard of a hormone called leptin. So leptin is a hormone that's released from fat stores. So if you've got more fat, you will release more leptin. And it basically tells the brain that you've got enough energy within reserve. And it was used through evolution to ensure that the body had enough for whether it was procreating, whether it was to go hunt, just basic survival. Your body needs to have adequate stores. That was where the ability to store fat come from. And leptin basically gives the body a feedback loop and saying, okay, we've got enough there. If you lose weight, mainly in fat, which is what we aim for, because losing fat mass when it's excessive is always beneficial, then your leptin levels will decrease. By decreasing leptin levels, the brain's thinking, well, we're losing energy, we need to restore this. So that's why you find a lot of people throughout history who've went on a diet have then returned back to their normal weight, because when I say normal, I'll come on to that, but they've returned back to that weight because their body is trying to replace that lost energy, and it thinks that it's a threat. Now, when you were born, you were never set, let's say for someone who's 22 stone, when you were born, that was not going to be your end point. Your set point was 22 stone, and you need to eat until you get to that point. That can be recalibrated. There's a lot of evidence around showing this weight set point can be changed, manipulated, but it does take a lot of willpower, which I think as a population, it's decreasing rapidly. This idea that you have to put hard work into things in a world that's never been easier to do so is proven quite, well, it's concerning really, especially when it comes to all other factors in your life, especially when it comes to health. Like I've just said then, you can do what I'm doing, where I maintain a strict diet. I do exercise every day. I do stuff that I don't want to do necessarily. Like this morning, I've done zone 2 cycling. It's a bit boring sometimes, but I've done that because I knew the benefits to my health, whereas people aren't willing to do that. It's just easier to do an injection once a week, which takes a matter of 10-15 seconds. It does all the hard work for you on the face of it. Obviously, we know that it doesn't improve your heart health in the sense that it improves the efficiency. It doesn't improve VO2 max or anything else related to performance metrics or bone density, etc. I keep going off on a cycle here. But I can't even think of where I was up to. So I went through this idea that this is why I should actually have notes instead of trying to freelance everything when it comes to these live streams. If you just give me a couple of seconds, I can then go back to the point that I was making. Oh, it was back to leptin. Okay, leptin it was. So you can recalibrate the set point of weight. So if you do lose 4 stone, you can, from 22 stone to 18 stone, you can then recalibrate that as a set point if you maintain it for a long enough period of time. Make sure it becomes a part of your routine, etc., etc. The body is very, very clever when it comes to recalibration of energy intake and demands. But my point is that in these patients who tend to lose a lot of weight, 22% on average, let's just round up to a quarter of their body weight, then if you are 20 stone, you are going to lose 5 stone. So you're going to lose a big chunk of weight. Now with GLP-1s, on average, I think it's about 40% of that is lean mass. So 60% will be fat mass, which is still quite good. And then if you've lost all this fat and then you've not maintained or changed your lifestyle, your energy demands, etc., then when you stop that medication, your body is going to be screaming to re-put that energy back where it was meant to be. And that's my issue. And I've seen it a few times. Again, patients don't want to believe it. They're treating it as though it's I can't even think what I would say it is, but people are just treating it as, oh, we'll just come back to it ad hoc. So I had someone the other day where they've been on it for 3 months. They'll say, well, actually, I'll have a couple of months off, save a bit of money, and then I've got a holiday coming up, so I'll go back on it. I just think, it's a medication for a start. So anything medication-wise always has a trade-off. You have to weigh up risk-benefits. And if I keep going on, but weight is not the primary measure of health. The quicker people realise that, then I think the better the health of the population becomes. I could go on for a long time about this. I've got no notes, so you can tell how passionate I am, and it's very hard to convey all these things to people. If you are of high weight, reduce it. You will see a lot of health benefits. If you are solely using weight as a metric of health, then you're not going to get very far. You need to improve other aspects. Humans are meant to move. Humans are meant to perform. And the only way you do and improve these things is by actually doing the exercise or giving your body what it needs through diet. A lot of these medications work by simply stopping you from eating. If you are not able to eat, the body cannot make certain amino acids. So where are you going to get them from if you're not eating? Your body cannot make omega-3, so it needs to get it from its diet. There's a lot of things that I'm fearful of when people go from not eating at all to then restarting eating, because you can get refeeding syndromes. There's a lot of complications that are on the horizon if people don't address any of these situations and issues. But if you've got this far, well, I actually don't put these in enough. So this is a disclaimer. This is not medical advice. I've not made a healthcare professional patient relationship, so we can't deduce that as medical advice. This is merely for informational purposes only. You can see all the information I've said about the manufacturer's licensing agreements. If you actually just go on to search their medication, by law they have to document the studies that they've enrolled the medication in, any side effects that have ever been reported. So you can find all this out. It's not a secret to do so. So it's not medical advice, informational purposes only. And if you've got this far, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.